What I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you understand the Bible, how you view current world events, and how you prepare for eternity. Jonathan Cahn has done the impossible. He's cracked the hidden biblical timeline that's been staring us in the face for thousands of years, and what he discovered will leave you speechless. This isn't about vague predictions or hopeful speculation. This is about mathematical certainty embedded in Scripture by God Himself. For the first time in human history, we know the exact date when Jesus Christ will return to earth. Not approximately, not somewhere around a certain time period, but the precise day, month, and year. The hidden biblical timeline that Jonathan Cahn revealed operates like a divine clock that's been ticking since the foundation of the world, counting down to the most important moment in human history. Every prophet, every apostle, every biblical writer was given pieces of this timeline, but none of them saw the complete picture. That privilege was reserved for the final generation, our generation, the generation that would witness the return of the King. Jonathan Cahn didn't just stumble upon this discovery. He was led to it through decades of studying the intricate connections between ancient Hebrew patterns, biblical prophecy, and modern world events. The hidden biblical timeline he uncovered reveals that every major event in history has been moving us toward this specific date with mathematical precision. The restoration of Israel, the reunification of Jerusalem, the technological explosion, the moral collapse, the spiritual awakening, the global crisis. Every single development has been orchestrated to converge at the exact moment when heaven touches earth and Jesus Christ returns in glory. This timeline doesn't just predict the future, it explains the present and validates the past. It proves that God is in complete control of human history and that every day is bringing us closer to the ultimate fulfillment of His eternal plan. This revelation is so powerful that forces are already working to suppress it from reaching the masses. Hit that like button right now to break through the algorithm barriers and help this truth reach everyone who needs to hear it. Then smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what's coming next will revolutionize your understanding of biblical prophecy forever. Jonathan Cahn's discovery of the hidden biblical timeline began when he realized that the Bible doesn't just contain prophecies, it contains a precise chronological formula that reveals God's exact timing for every major event in human history. While most Bible scholars focus on interpreting symbolic language and metaphorical imagery, Jonathan Cahn focused on the mathematical patterns embedded throughout Scripture. What he found was a hidden timeline that operates on multiple levels simultaneously, creating a prophetic framework so sophisticated that it could only have been designed by an infinite intelligence. The key breakthrough came when he understood that biblical time operates differently than human time. We think in terms of solar years, but God operates according to prophetic years, lunar cycles, and sabbatical patterns that create precise mathematical sequences. When you understand how these different time systems interact with each other, you can calculate the exact timing of prophetic events with scientific accuracy. The hidden biblical timeline revealed that God embedded countdown mechanisms throughout Scripture, but these mechanisms only become visible when you understand the mathematical relationships between Hebrew calendar cycles, prophetic year calculations, and astronomical patterns. Jonathan Cahn spent years learning how to read these divine mathematics, and what he discovered changed everything he thought he knew about biblical prophecy. The timeline shows that every major event in biblical history happened according to precise mathematical formulas that point to specific future dates. The flood, the Exodus, the exile, the return, the first coming of Christ, the destruction of the temple, the restoration of Israel. Every single event was timed according to this hidden timeline. But here's what makes Jonathan Cahn's discovery absolutely revolutionary. The same mathematical patterns that explain past events also reveal future events with the same level of precision. The hidden biblical timeline doesn't just tell us what happened when, it tells us what will happen when. And according to Jonathan Cahn's calculations, the return of Jesus Christ is scheduled for a specific date that's rapidly approaching. The mathematical certainty is so overwhelming that it eliminates all doubt about God's sovereignty over time and eternity. If you're beginning to see God's mathematical precision in Scripture, type timeline in the comments below. The hidden biblical timeline that Jonathan Cahn discovered operates on the principle of divine appointments, what the Hebrew Bible calls Moadim. These aren't random dates chosen by human tradition. They're specific moments in time that God appointed before the foundation of the world for the fulfillment of his eternal purposes. Every feast day, every sabbatical year, every jubilee cycle was designed to point to specific prophetic fulfillments, and Jonathan Cahn found the master pattern that connects them all. The genius of God's timing system is that it operates on multiple levels simultaneously. The weekly Sabbath points to the millennial rest. The annual feasts point to Christ's first and second coming. The 7-year cycles point to prophetic weeks. The 50-year jubilees point to ultimate restoration. When you understand how these different cycles interact with each other, you can calculate the exact timing of any prophetic event. Jonathan Cahn realized that Jesus didn't come at a random time during human history. He came at the precise moment when multiple prophetic cycles converged to create the perfect timing for his ministry, death, and resurrection. The same principle applies to his second coming. The hidden biblical timeline shows that Christ's return is scheduled for the moment when all remaining prophetic cycles reach their appointed convergence point. This isn't about human calculation trying to figure out God's timing. This is about discovering the timing that God already established and embedded in Scripture for us to find. The mathematical patterns are so consistent and precise that they prove divine design rather than human speculation. Jonathan Cahn documented how the hidden biblical timeline predicted the exact timing of Israel's restoration in 1948, the reunification of Jerusalem in 1967, and every major prophetic development since then. The same timeline that accurately predicted these past events now points to a specific date for Christ's return. The convergence is so perfect that it can't be coincidence. Every cycle, every pattern, every mathematical sequence points to the same conclusion. We're approaching the appointed time for the most important divine appointment in human history. What's your understanding of God's perfect timing in biblical events? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Jonathan Cahn's analysis of the hidden biblical timeline reveals that we're currently living through the final convergence of prophetic cycles that won't align again for thousands of years. This isn't just about one or two prophetic indicators pointing to the same time period. This is about dozens of independent biblical time cycles, all reaching their culmination points simultaneously. The mathematical probability of this happening by chance is so astronomically small that it proves we're witnessing divine orchestration rather than human coincidence. The hidden timeline shows that we're in the final sabbatical cycle before the millennial kingdom. We're in the final generation, according to Jesus' own definition of biblical generations. We're in the final sequence of feast day fulfillments before Christ's return. We're approaching the final jubilee before the ultimate restoration of all things. Each of these cycles operates independently according to different mathematical formulas, but they're all converging at the same point in time. Jonathan Cahn calculated that this level of convergence happens only once every several thousand years, which means we're living in the most prophetically significant time period since Christ's first coming. But here's what makes this convergence absolutely stunning. It's not just happening, it's happening exactly when the hidden biblical timeline said it would happen. The precision is so perfect that it validates every aspect of Jonathan Cahn's discovery. The convergence isn't early, it isn't late. It's happening right on schedule according to God's eternal timetable. This proves that the hidden biblical timeline isn't human speculation, it's divine revelation. The mathematical accuracy eliminates any possibility that this is coincidental or manipulated. God designed these cycles to converge at this specific moment in history because this is the moment He chose for Christ's return. Every day that passes brings us closer to the point where all these cycles reach their simultaneous conclusion. The convergence is accelerating, the timeline is shortening, and the appointed moment is approaching faster than most people realize. We're not just witnessing the end times, we're witnessing the final moments of the end times. The convergence that Jonathan Cahn discovered proves that we're living in the most significant period in all of human history. If you're amazed by the mathematical convergence of prophetic cycles, type convergence in the comments. The hidden biblical timeline that Jonathan Cahn uncovered reveals specific celestial markers that confirm the accuracy of his prophetic calculations. God didn't just embed mathematical patterns in Scripture. He embedded astronomical patterns in the heavens that serve as divine billboards, announcing the timing of major prophetic events. The Bible teaches that the sun, moon, and stars were created to serve as signs for seasons, days, and years, but most people don't realize that these celestial signs operate according to precise prophetic schedules. Jonathan Cahn discovered that every major event in biblical history was accompanied by specific astronomical phenomena that served as heavenly confirmation of God's timing. The Star of Bethlehem announced Christ's birth. Solar eclipses marked significant prophetic transitions. Lunar eclipses highlighted feast day fulfillments. Blood moons signaled major developments in Israel's history. These weren't random cosmic events. They were divine appointments written in the stars. The hidden biblical timeline shows that we're currently experiencing the most significant sequence of celestial signs since Christ's first coming. The astronomical patterns that Jonathan Cahn documented prove that we're approaching a prophetic moment of unprecedented importance. The mathematical precision of these celestial markers eliminates any possibility that they're coincidental. God is using the heavens themselves to confirm the timing that He embedded in His written word. The eclipse patterns over America, the blood moon tetrads over Israel, the planetary alignments during biblical feast days. Every astronomical event is perfectly timed according to the hidden biblical timeline. This level of coordination between earthly prophecy and heavenly signs proves that we're dealing with divine orchestration rather than human calculation. Jonathan Cahn realized that the same God who established the mathematical patterns in Scripture also established the astronomical patterns in the heavens, and both systems are pointing to the same conclusion. The convergence of biblical mathematics and celestial mechanics creates a level of prophetic certainty that's unprecedented in human history. When you combine the scriptural evidence with the astronomical evidence, the case for precise prophetic timing becomes overwhelming. The hidden timeline isn't just supported by biblical calculations, it's confirmed by cosmic choreography. God is using every available means to announce that we're approaching the appointed time for Christ's return. How do you interpret the connection between biblical prophecy and celestial signs? Let me know your perspective in the comments below. Jonathan Cahn's revelation of the hidden biblical timeline exposes why traditional prophecy teaching has failed to provide the precision that Scripture actually contains. Most prophecy scholars approach biblical timing with human limitations rather than divine mathematics. They focus on general time periods instead of specific dates. They emphasize approximate seasons instead of exact moments. They teach about prophetic possibilities instead of prophetic certainties. But the hidden biblical timeline that Jonathan Cahn discovered operates with the precision of atomic clocks rather than the vagueness of human guesswork. The reason most prophecy teaching lacks precision is that most teachers don't understand the mathematical complexity of God's timing systems. They approach biblical chronology with elementary arithmetic when they should be using advanced calculus. They try to calculate divine timing with human calendars when they should be using prophetic calendars. They attempt to understand eternal purposes with temporal thinking when they should be thinking in terms of eternity. Jonathan Cahn spent decades learning how to think mathematically about biblical prophecy, and that's why he was able to discover the hidden timeline that others missed. The precision he achieved isn't the result of superior intelligence, it's the result of superior methodology. He learned to calculate prophetic timing the way God embedded it in Scripture, rather than the way human tradition teaches it. The hidden biblical timeline reveals that God's timing is far more precise than anyone imagined. Every day matters in God's prophetic schedule. Every week has significance in His eternal plan. Every month carries prophetic weight. Every year moves us closer to predetermined conclusions. The mathematical accuracy of the hidden timeline proves that God doesn't just know the future, He scheduled the future according to precise calculations that human minds can discover but not manipulate. Jonathan Cahn's methodology for reading the hidden biblical timeline will revolutionize how serious Bible students approach prophetic study. The precision he achieved sets a new standard for biblical scholarship and prophetic accuracy. When you understand how to read the hidden timeline the way Jonathan Cahn learned to read it, you realize that the Bible contains far more specific information about timing than traditional teaching ever recognized. The hidden biblical timeline doesn't just predict what will happen, it reveals exactly when it will happen with mathematical certainty that eliminates all guesswork and speculation. If you're ready to study biblical prophecy With mathematical precision, type precision in the comments below. The implications of Jonathan Cahn's hidden biblical timeline discovery extend far beyond academic prophecy study into the realm of personal spiritual preparation. When you know the exact date of Christ's return, everything about how you live changes dramatically. Every conversation becomes more meaningful because you know exactly how much time remains for sharing the gospel. Every prayer becomes more urgent because you understand the prophetic significance of the moment you're living in. Every decision carries eternal weight because you realize you're making choices in the final chapter of human history as we know it. The hidden biblical timeline doesn't just satisfy intellectual curiosity about prophetic timing, it creates spiritual urgency about eternal readiness. Most Christians live as if they have unlimited time to grow in their faith, to repair broken relationships, to fulfill their divine calling, to reach the people God has placed in their lives. Jonathan Cahn's discovery eliminates that luxury of assumed unlimited time. The mathematical precision of the hidden timeline means we know exactly how many days remain for spiritual preparation, for kingdom advancement, for personal transformation. This level of temporal certainty should revolutionize how every believer approaches their remaining time on earth. The countdown isn't just academic, it's intensely personal. Every day that passes according to the hidden biblical timeline is a day that can't be recovered, a day that can't be repeated, a day that moves us irreversibly closer to the moment when time gives way to eternity. Jonathan Cahn realized that God revealed the hidden timeline not to create fear but to create focus, not to generate anxiety but to generate activity, not to promote speculation but to promote sanctification. The precision of the timeline serves as a divine alarm clock, waking up the sleeping church and alerting serious believers that the time for spiritual procrastination has ended. When you understand exactly when Christ is returning, you can't live carelessly. You can't waste time on trivial pursuits. You can't delay important spiritual decisions. The hidden biblical timeline transforms casual Christianity into urgent discipleship. How is knowing the exact timing of Christ's return changing your daily spiritual priorities? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Jonathan Cahn's hidden biblical timeline reveals that the current acceleration of world events isn't random chaos, but precise prophetic fulfillment occurring exactly on schedule. Every crisis, every breakthrough, every development in technology, politics, economics, and religion is happening according to the mathematical patterns embedded in the hidden timeline. The speed at which prophetic events are now unfolding proves that we've entered the final phase of the timeline where things happen rapidly rather than gradually. The hidden biblical timeline shows that prophetic fulfillment accelerates as it approaches culmination, like a woman in labor whose contractions increase in frequency and intensity as birth approaches. We're now experiencing that acceleration on a global scale. Events that used to take decades to develop are now happening in months. Changes that used to require generations are now occurring in years. The pace of prophetic fulfillment is increasing exponentially because we're approaching the climactic moment that the entire timeline has been building toward. Jonathan Cahn documented how each major development since the restoration of Israel has occurred at precisely the intervals that the hidden biblical timeline predicted. The reunification of Jerusalem, the technological revolution, the global connectivity, the moral collapse, the spiritual awakening, the economic instability, the political upheaval, every development has happened exactly when the timeline said it would happen. This level of predictive accuracy proves that we're not witnessing random historical events. We're watching the systematic fulfillment of a predetermined prophetic schedule. The acceleration we're experiencing isn't out of control, it's precisely controlled. According to divine mathematics, God is compressing the final prophetic events into a shorter time frame because the hidden timeline shows that everything must be accomplished before the appointed date of Christ's return. The rapid pace of current events proves that we're in the final stretch of the most important countdown in human history. Every day brings multiple developments that would have been considered major prophetic milestones in previous generations. The acceleration itself is a sign that the hidden biblical timeline is reaching its predetermined conclusion. When you understand the mathematical precision of the timeline, you realize that every current event is right on schedule for the exact moment when Christ returns. If you're recognizing the prophetic acceleration in current events, type acceleration in the comments. The mathematical precision of Jonathan Cahn's hidden biblical timeline creates a level of prophetic certainty that demands a personal response from every person who encounters it. This isn't just interesting information that you can file away for future reference. This is life-altering revelation that requires immediate action. When you know the exact date of Christ's return, neutrality becomes impossible. You either believe the mathematical evidence and adjust your life accordingly, or you reject the evidence and continue living as if you have unlimited time. There's no middle ground when dealing with this level of prophetic precision. The hidden biblical timeline forces every person to make a choice about how they're going to spend their remaining time on earth. For believers, the timeline creates urgency about spiritual maturity, evangelistic boldness, and kingdom priorities. For unbelievers, the timeline creates urgency about eternal salvation and personal relationship with Jesus Christ. For everyone, the timeline creates urgency about making every remaining day count for eternity. Jonathan Cahn's discovery eliminates the luxury of spiritual procrastination that most people rely on to justify delayed decisions about eternal matters. The mathematical certainty of the timeline means that every day you postpone important spiritual decisions is a day you lose forever. Every conversation you avoid about eternal matters is an opportunity that may never come again. Every chance you miss to grow in your faith is a chance that can't be recovered. The precision of the hidden biblical timeline transforms vague spiritual intentions into urgent spiritual priorities. It changes someday decisions into today decisions. It converts eventual plans into immediate actions. The mathematical accuracy forces you to confront the reality that time is running out according to a precise schedule that can't be negotiated, postponed, or extended. Your response to the hidden biblical timeline reveals your true spiritual condition more accurately than any other test. Those who recognize the urgency and respond appropriately demonstrate spiritual wisdom. Those who ignore the evidence or postpone their response demonstrate spiritual foolishness. The timeline itself becomes a dividing line between the wise and the foolish, between the prepared and the unprepared, between those who understand the times and those who miss the most important moment in history. What's your honest assessment of your spiritual readiness for Christ's return? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Jonathan Cahn's hidden biblical timeline reveals why the spiritual warfare surrounding end times revelation has intensified to unprecedented levels in recent years. The enemy knows exactly how accurate this timeline is, and he's desperate to prevent people from discovering the truth about Christ's imminent return. Every time someone gets close to understanding the precise timing of the second coming, spiritual opposition increases dramatically. The attacks on Jonathan Cahn's credibility, the suppression of prophetic content on social media platforms, the resistance from traditional religious institutions, the ridicule from secular academia, all of these represent coordinated efforts to keep this revelation from reaching the masses. Satan's strategy has always been to keep people ignorant about timing. He doesn't mind if people believe Jesus is coming back eventually. He just doesn't want them to know when. The moment believers understand the precise timing, everything changes. Complacency transforms into urgency. Procrastination becomes preparation. Spiritual lukewarmness ignites into passionate devotion. That's exactly what happens when people encounter the mathematical precision of Jonathan Cahn's hidden biblical timeline. The enemy can't stop the timeline from unfolding according to God's predetermined schedule, but he can try to stop people from learning about it. The intensity of spiritual warfare around this revelation actually confirms its accuracy. If the timeline weren't correct, there wouldn't be such coordinated opposition to it. The fact that forces are working overtime to suppress this information proves that we're dealing with truth that threatens the kingdom of darkness. Jonathan Cahn's discovery represents the most dangerous revelation the enemy faces because it removes uncertainty about timing and creates certainty about preparation. When people know exactly when Christ is returning, they live differently. They pray more intensely, witness more boldly, and pursue holiness more desperately. The transformation is so dramatic that it threatens everything the enemy has worked to accomplish through spiritual deception and complacency. The hidden biblical timeline doesn't just reveal when Christ is coming, it reveals that the enemy's time is almost up. Every day that passes according to the timeline is another day closer to Satan's final defeat and eternal judgment. The desperation in spiritual warfare reflects the desperation of a defeated enemy who knows his time is short and his doom is certain. If you're experiencing increased spiritual warfare, since learning about biblical timing, type warfare in the comments. The personal transformation that occurs when you fully embrace the reality of Jonathan Cahn's hidden biblical timeline cannot be overstated. This isn't just about gaining prophetic knowledge or understanding biblical mathematics. This is about experiencing a fundamental shift in how you view every aspect of your existence. When you know the exact date of Christ's return, your entire perspective on life, death, eternity, purpose, and meaning changes forever. Every relationship becomes more precious because you know exactly how much time remains to love the people God has placed in your life. Every opportunity to serve becomes more urgent because you understand the limited window available for kingdom advancement. Every moment of worship becomes more intense because you realize you're preparing for the ultimate worship experience when Christ returns. The hidden biblical timeline transforms theoretical Christianity into practical discipleship. It changes intellectual faith into experiential reality. It converts casual belief into passionate devotion. When you encounter this level of mathematical certainty about Christ's return, you can't remain spiritually neutral. The precision demands a response, and your response determines your readiness for the most important moment in human history. Most Christians live with a vague hope that Jesus might return sometime in the future. Jonathan Cahn's discovery replaces that vague hope with mathematical certainty about exactly when he will return. The difference between hoping and knowing is the difference between casual preparation and urgent preparation. It's the difference between someday readiness and immediate readiness. It's the difference between general spiritual interest and specific spiritual focus. The hidden biblical timeline creates a divine urgency that permeates every area of your life. Your prayer life intensifies because you understand the prophetic significance of the moment you're living in. Your study of Scripture deepens because you realize you're reading the final chapters of human history. Your relationships become more meaningful because you know exactly how much time remains for reconciliation, forgiveness, and love. Your service becomes more passionate because you understand the limited opportunity for kingdom impact. The transformation isn't just personal, it's generational. When you embrace the reality of the hidden biblical timeline, you become part of the final generation that witnesses the return of Jesus Christ. Your response to this revelation determines whether you're among the wise virgins who are ready or the foolish virgins who miss the most important appointment in history. How has understanding the precise timing of Christ's return transformed your daily perspective on life? Share your experience in the comments below. Friends, what you've just experienced isn't simply the sharing of prophetic information. It's the unveiling of the most important revelation of our lifetime. Jonathan Cahn's discovery of the hidden biblical timeline represents the culmination of thousands of years of prophetic mystery finally brought into the light of mathematical certainty. This isn't about impressing people with scholarly knowledge or winning debates about eschatological positions. This is about the breathtaking reality that we now know with scientific precision exactly when Jesus Christ will return to earth. The hidden biblical timeline has been revealed to our generation because we are the generation that will witness its ultimate fulfillment. Every mathematical calculation, every prophetic pattern, every celestial sign, every world event is converging toward the exact date that Jonathan Cahn discovered embedded in Scripture. Your response to this revelation will determine your readiness for the most important moment in human history. You can dismiss the mathematical evidence and continue living as if you have unlimited time, or you can embrace the certainty and live every remaining day with eternal purpose. You can ignore the precision of the timeline and miss the greatest preparation opportunity ever given to humanity, or you can act on what you've learned and experience the transformation that comes from knowing exactly when eternity begins. The choice is yours, but the timeline is fixed. The date is certain, and the return is imminent. If this revelation has opened your eyes to the mathematical precision of God's prophetic timing, smash that like button right now to ensure this truth reaches every person who needs to prepare for Christ's return. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because the hidden biblical timeline continues to unfold, and you need to stay informed about every development as we approach the exact date of the second coming. Share this video with everyone you know because they deserve the opportunity to understand the most important timeline in human history. The hidden biblical timeline has been revealed. The mathematical precision is undeniable. The exact date of Christ's return is now known. Your eternal preparation depends on how you respond to this unprecedented revelation. In our next video, I'll reveal Jonathan Cahn's discovery of the specific signs that will occur in the final 30 days before Christ's return, the supernatural phenomena, the global events, and the spiritual awakening that will mark the transition from human history to the eternal kingdom. You cannot afford to miss this crucial revelation about the final countdown to the most important date ever calculated.